Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a very interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Civivi Elementum Button Lock 2. It's weird that this is the second one, because this is what they should have done the first time. This should be available by the time you're watching this video. I'm sure it'll come in and out of stock, but I will link it right down below so that you guys can take a look. It is well priced. They have a few different versions, and it is sure to go over well with most people. I have a lot to say though. Thanks so much to Civivi for sending this in for me to take a look at. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. It does help my channel when you use those links down there. So I'd appreciate it, but that's entirely up to you. Let's go ahead and get a measurement. This is, to my knowledge, it's the Civivi Elementum. It's just a button lock. 7 inches overall. Blade length is 3 inches. Cutting edge is 2.65. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and the Ontario Rat Model 2. The Elementum is very similar to the Rat 2, obviously. How about up against the Demco AD 20.5? There you go. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? Much closer to the size of the Para 3, obviously. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and the Benchmade Bug Out. All right, what's that? I'm missing one. The original Elementum. Yeah, you're right. Let's put it up against the original Elementum. There you go. It looks like it's the same, but I think, yeah, the button lock version's a little fatter, and it's probably, well, it's obviously to accommodate for the button. As far as the blade stock thickness goes, they look to be about the same. Out here, I think the swedge is more prominent on the original, whereas it's less prominent on the new one. I think that's probably for the better. This is fine, but when it comes down to the actual slicing edge, they both feel exactly the same. So a little bit stronger tip, a little bit thicker in the handle, but definitely the same sliciness. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. So thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's a little bit thicker, not too bad. The overall profile of the Elementum is one that is very accommodating and still very compact, right? So most people are not going to have an issue with this. Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3, there you go. Nowhere near as tall, even including the flipper tab. It's just really not going to be a problem in the pocket. I'm certain they get some basic versions of this out right now, but look, it's not like because I'm reviewing it, it's going to be popular. This is already popular. It is popular with or without my help. In fact, it doesn't. The Elementum is already the most popular Civivi knife, I think ever. In fact, it's constantly at the top of most popular. Like if you sort retailers by most popular, the Elementum is always up there. And for good reason. It's a good knife. I've maintained that the Elementum, to me, as an enthusiast collector, is kind of boring, but as far as its potential as a utilitarian cutting apparatus, yeah, it's obvious. I mean, it's a good knife. It's an evergreen. In fact, I'm just now realizing it's kind of stupid that I don't use it as a size comparison knife. I really should. Yeah, it's going to be popular either way. So there are a few different variations of this knife out there right now, but if you're like, if they came out with a special one that I take, we're going to see all of that. It won't surprise me if WE does like a titanium button lock Elementum, if they do carbon fiber ones, if they do a Damas steel, right? It won't surprise me at all if they're like, we got the WE titanium and Damas steel button lock Elementum for $650, right? They might do something like that. I am certain that we will see a wide variety of different options for this knife. So just throwing that out there. Let's go ahead and measure blade stock thickness and just get that out of the way. And the reason I'm doing it early is because the calipers are right here and I always seem to lose them throughout the review process. So, blade stock thickness on the Elementum is 100 and says 116 thousandths. They're probably 115. On the internals, WTF, we are looking at stainless steel liners. So it is milled out for weight reduction. We have peel ply textured, in this case, natural G10, which I actually really like. This is my favorite version of this knife that's out there at the moment. We have a satin finished Nitro V blade, which is great. I love Nitro V, and I think it's fantastic, especially at this price point. So there you go. Weight on this guy, and we're going to weigh this compared to the old one. The weight on the button lock version is 3.14 ounces, which I think is just fine. The ratios are great. I would imagine it's slightly heavier than the original. Yep, it is. It's a fair amount heavier, right? Still nothing to where I'm like, oh my gosh, my pants are going to fall down because the new Elementum button lock is so heavy, right? Balance is a little bit towards the butt, so you will notice that a little more, especially if you regularly EDC the original one. Not a big deal though, right? Hardware check. Let's go ahead and get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. The pivot is a T8. The body screws are T8. Civivi does a great job with this. And then we have a couple of T6 pocket clip screws. And, hey, Civivi, why did you not create a spot for a lefty clip mount? You know, like, why? That is so weird. Why did you not do that? Did you not do? They didn't do it on this one either. Hey, Civivi, mill it out for lefties. It's like, it's just our most popular model ever. The lefties don't care. Come on, what are you doing? It's a button lock. These are even easier to manipulate with the left hand. You're missing out. 2 holes. Jeez. All right, sorry. I'm going to bat for lefties today. Crazy that they didn't mill it for lefties. That makes no sense to me. Okay. We did weight, we did blade stock thickness, we did the hardware check. This is an easy knife to take apart, is what I was about to say. Maintenance is going to be pretty simple on this guy. Okay, meat and potatoes time. Look, this is the same thing as the other Elementum. I have noticed that I think they're lipping the liners a bit less. Lipping the liners. These look a bit more lipped. Maybe not. Maybe it's my imagination. I think it is. Let's take a look here. It is slightly less. Liners are a bit more aggressive on the standard one. So they did a button lock Elementum, and it's a bigger guy, and it's basically a gravity knife because it doesn't have a flipper tab. It was so weird. I mean, okay. It works, but it was definitely weird. And listen, I like the size of the larger one. Honestly, I thought that was really cool. I think it would be an obvious killer move to do the big one, right? But with a flipper tab. Like, just make that again, but give it the flipper tab. Keep making this. This is great. Everybody's going to love this, right? But make the big one with the flipper tab too. That's the simplest, most obvious move. You literally already have all the measurements, the dimensions of everything, right? Just give it a flipper tab and tune the detent. Well, it wouldn't be the detent, but allow the plunge lock to create the right amount of buildup and release. So yeah. But I'm just saying what everybody's thinking because it was super weird. Ergonomics, honestly, this one feels a little bit better because the scales are a bit thicker. I prefer this anyway. I prefer that it fills out the hand a little bit more. I kind of enjoy that. These scales are heavily chamfered or sort of rounded off the edges, which makes it feel great. And this works really well so that the button lock is not sticking way up past the frame just a little bit. It is slightly recessed, and that's good. The button also does not have a lot amount of travel, which is something that I appreciate. I don't like button locks where you have to down into the scales before it releases. It just feels crunchy and awkward. The Kaiser Cormorant is a good example of that. I know everybody loves that knife, right? But that button has to go so far, and it just and it finally, releases the blade. It's just too much, right? I do like, I like it where the button sits. I think that's great. You can choke up on this thing pretty, if you're right-handed, you can choke up on this thing pretty reliably without pushing into the button. Now, if you are left-handed and you choke up, I'm going to squeeze this thing as hard as I can in a specific spot. There is if you squeeze just hard enough in the right spot and you're choking up, you could disengage. And that's generally the case with most button locks, right? Choke back here, you're okay. So lefties, you might want to watch out for that. But not near as much of a problem as like on the Brown, the Brown Knives button lock that, everybody brought up. But yeah, I think I prefer the additional thickness here. The blade is the same thing. It's a good drop point blade that has a pretty aggressive grind. Gets very thin behind the edge. It'll be nice and slicey. The jimping is in a good spot. Choke up position is still good. It's everything that you have come to know and love about the Elementum. It's just a button lock. I find this version substantially more interesting. The Elementum it's weird to me that the Elementum is so similar to so many other good but not amazing, EDC designs. It just resonated really well with people because there were certain things that just kind of checked off a larger number of boxes for more people, right? There's not really, in my opinion, the design of the Elementum is not really an amazing standout feature that makes it better or more innovative or more interesting than anything else. Nothing like that. It just has a good number of basic thumbs up from a lot of people. Making the scales a little bit thicker and adding a button lock makes it that much more interesting. I enjoy button locks, not just for fidget factor, but I find them to be a little bit more convenient. The fewer brain cells that I can apply to deploying my knife and getting it out when I have to cut, the better, right? There doesn't need to be a big ceremony when you get your knife out, right? They're not going to play trumpets and release doves in the air every time you get your knives out. You just get it out, right? And I've found that my brain has to apply essentially 1/4 of a brain cell to getting button lock knives out of my pocket, deploying them, using them, and putting them away, right? Which is great because I'd rather focus on the task itself. I honestly think that this is all for the better. I just, personally, I know that this works really well for a lot of people. I wear an XL glove, which does not mean at all that I have XL hands. I think I always bring this up. Guys, or for some reason, pride ourselves, what size of glove do you wear? I'll wear an XL, because I'm a large fella. Nah! You're a regular sized dude and glove sizes are just dumb. Every guy I know wears an XL glove. Now, I'm not saying if you don't wear an XL glove, you have small hands. I'm just saying that's just it's fine. I think the glove manufacturing companies were like, how do we make people feel good about buying our product, right? It's like adding weight to the scales at the gym for the guys who are trying to pack on muscle. Oh yeah, you definitely put on 10 pounds of mass in the last week. Yeah, you definitely did, Howard. No, for me, I would say I have fairly average sized hands for a dude, and this is it's good. I can just barely get a full purchase on this thing. I would rather have a larger one. That's why I think it's so important that Civivi takes a serious look at the larger, more awkward gravity button lock Elementum and turn it into a large flipper Elementum, right? You can call it the Elementum Button Lock 2XL or whatever the heck you want to call it. But make a larger one so that people who want to carry and can legally carry larger knives, whether it's preference or their hand size, they have that option to do that. But this is fine, and this will accommodate for the vast majority of people. If you're somebody who truly has huge hands, right? I'm talking somebody who wears a 2XL glove or bigger, then this might not be for you. It might feel a little bit too small, right? Or if you're, maybe you're like, I don't care. As long as I can get 3 fingers on it, I just like to. There are XL fellows and ladies out there who prefer smaller knives, right? It's not like if you are that big, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm huge and my hands are huge, so I can only carry huge knives. No, not at all, right? It just depends on your preferences. But I think it would be nice, considering how popular this thing is and how good a move it was to add the button to this, it would be a good move to just make the bigger one too. There's still a lanyard hole on this, so yay, lanyard people, yay. The pocket clip is the same pocket clip that is fine. It's like a B- clip. Really, it could be an A plus clip if they'd shaved this off, and honestly, if they made the whole clip a little bit shorter. But they insist on this bill, so if you buy this knife, expect to, at some point in your life, walk by a ledge of some sort and have this pocket clip snag onto it and bend itself out. That's just a frustration that is part of owning a Civivi knife or a Wii knife or a Sencut knife, because the vast majority of those pocket clips look exactly like this. Functionally, I mean, as far as keeping the knife in your pocket, it works fine. There's no issue there. Carries it deep. They've got the screws recessed, right? They didn't make a spot for lefties. It just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Okay. Action is good, snappy. This runs on bearings. It does exactly what you want a button lock to do. When you push that button, the blade falls into the closed position. When you pull down on the flipper tab, it snaps it into the open position. Feels good. No blade play, up, down, left, or right. Minimal button stick. That's just part of having a button lock. There's always going to be a little bit of click, right? Not bad at all on this one. Let's see, detent lash. No detent lash at all. Very consistent, very smooth on the inside here. And then, actually, it feels pretty good for a button lock, right? It's not a detent ball that's doing that. But anyways, nice centering. The stop pin is located back here in its usual spot. And there's a little bit of shouldering. Thankfully, Civivi, came to their senses with the pricing on this one and are asking $65, which I think is right on the money. They could have easily been like, oh yeah, people like that Elementum. We should charge $80 for this thing or something ridiculous. No, they're charging $65, which all things considered, I think that's pretty fair. That makes this knife a budget knife, right? I very much enjoy Nitro V steel. I think the quality of construction for this thing is great. It'd be really cool to see a nested liner version, but okay, whatever, right? The pocket clip is okay. The overall profile and cutting edge of the Elementum is really, really good. So I think that's just fine. This is obviously a very recommendable knife, and I don't think you really needed that. You don't need to hear me say that to know that, right? A lot of you already have this knife and you're watching this video just to, just for that reaffirmation, right? And that's fine. Civivi, make the bigger one. Make the bigger one. It will go over very well. I don't think they even need me to say that. I think they already know this, but for some reason they're like, no, make them wait. Yes, we shall see. It's like a Dr. Claw situation when he's like petting a cat and he won't face us in his swivel chair, right? They're busy looking at the computer screens, which are, I have to imagine, it's just like satellite imagery of their consumer base. Make the bigger one! That's what we want. This is great. Everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to buy it. Make the bigger one. That's the way to go. All right. Good stuff. Very recommendable. It's going to go in my cheap knives I like playlist because it is a budget knife by my definition. And it's also going to go on my most recommended knives because obviously this is an insanely recommendable knife. Pretty much anybody in the knife world, even non-knife people, this is a good knife for everybody. And it is absolutely an evergreen design. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.